Top story here this half hour. Quintez Brown will be sentenced today in federal court. Brown accepted a plea deal last year, pleading guilty to charges of interfering with an election and using a weapon in a criminal act. In 2022, while now Mayor Craig Greenberg was running for the position, Brown went to Greenberg's campaign office and fired 6 shots at him. Brown could face up to 18 years in prison. His sentencing is set for 1 p.m. today. And police are investigating after a man was hit and killed while hanging off the side of a car. Metro Police say around 7 last night, they were called to South 4th Street and Winkler Avenue, close to U of L's campus. They found a man dead in the road. Police believe the man was hanging onto the outside of a car and the driver was intentionally swerving. The driver then hit another car, injuring and killing the man who was hanging on. The driver was arrested after fleeing the scene on foot. LMPD says all parties are accounted for. And Chief Paul Humphrey is denying allegations of misconduct leading to the shooting death of a young man. It comes after the head of the city's Civilian Review Board says police lied on a warrant. WHAS11's Clarice Shaley and photojournalist Emma Gefter have the details.
Drop the gun!
A U.S. Marshal shoots and kills Amari Cryer as he runs from police in May of 2022. Police were serving Cryer a domestic violence warrant.
We believe that there was false information provided to the charging attorney.
Louisville's Office of Inspector General is calling police action in training to question, saying Cryer's Fourth Amendment rights were violated. Harness's investigation with the Civilian Review and Accountability Board claims 12 wrongdoings, including false statements in the warrant and criminal complaint and not following policy guidelines. He referenced the recently negotiated consent decree.
This is behavior that's illustrated in the findings from the Department of Justice. False information used to gain warrants to do searches, and this appears to be a continuance of that.
Right. There's a lot of pretty outlandish claims that he makes in that investigation.
Police Chief Paul Humphrey claims his officers didn't lie.
So clearly there's either some kind of incompetence or lack of awareness of the way the criminal justice system works that led him to make these decisions. And what I'm not going to do is stand by and let him drag us through the mud with things that aren't true.
The chief told us in a live interview there is body camera video with the woman in Cryer's case saying she was strangled to the point that she went unconscious during the attack. Humphrey says the initial charges against Cryer were also first reviewed by a domestic violence prosecutor. As claims are denied, the department has until March 9th to provide a response. In Louisville, Clarice Shaley, WHAS 11 on your side.
Harness says the investigative file is being sent to the Professional Standards Unit today. They have 45 days to respond under the consent decree. The police department is preparing a response to the allegations for public review. Kentucky wants to end human trafficking in the state, and the Secretary of State is launching a new partnership with business owners to make it happen. Secretary Michael Adams wants business owners to be more involved in helping the state spot illegal activity. Adams called human trafficking modern-day slavery. He says employees at liquor stores, hotels, and transportation venues are often a point of contact for women being trafficked. His office is sharing packets of information for businesses to go over with employees so they know the signs to look for.
It's so important to talk about these things, to give survivors and victims hope, and to show that we are working on it. Kentucky businesses obviously have and can play a big role in raising that awareness and being part of the solution to stop trafficking.
The National Human Trafficking Hotline identified 77 cases in Kentucky last year, with almost 2,500 victims in the state since 2007. In Indiana, a similar initiative happened this month for commercial truck drivers. Indiana State Police said truck drivers are the eyes and ears of America, and they often stop in places where human trafficking can occur. That includes truck stops, rest areas, and warehouses or facilities where labor trafficking is common. ISP handed out wallet cards from Truckers Against Trafficking and held 10 outreach events this month. Another big story, we're following 2 properties once owned by former Southern Indiana Sheriff Jamie Knoll and his daughter Casey Knoll are about to be sold for restitution. Earlier this month, the Clark County Circuit Court approved an offer for 2 adjacent properties in Jeffersonville. One is the old barn where Jamie Knoll stored dozens of antique cars. It sits next to a log cabin-style home where Casey Knoll lived. The properties were sold together for just under $630,000. The historic riverfront mansion owned by Jamie and his estranged wife Misty is still for sale. Meanwhile, we are learning that the trial for Clark County councilor and friend of Jamie Knoll, John Miller, has been delayed. Miller is accused of approving funds for New Chapel EMS while at the same time receiving gifts from Knoll, who was running the service. His trial has now been postponed to October 27th. It'll be held in Clark County with a jury from out of town. In a big push to save money, TARC has finalized planned route cuts. The changes, first proposed in the fall, will affect 11 routes. For example, starting Sunday, the 22nd Street route will merge with Dixie Highway, and Crumbs Lane will merge into Eastern Parkway. The Dixie route will end in Portland. Riders will have to transfer to get to downtown Louisville. Several routes were not cut entirely, but will run less often. TARC says the cuts will save the agency about $4 million a year.